It's magic. We're live on this thing called the internet. Look who I have with me today, everybody. Gabriel Cowan from Audio Design Desk. And I know everybody knows him. We've got some comments that started coming in, but I don't think, for some reason, the first one, I'm going to do a test. The first one did not come through. See if this one comes through. Oh, there we go. There we got one. Our friend Spot Lewis from Philadelphia. There we go. The first comment didn't come through for some odd reason. There we go. And we got somebody from Denmark. Frizlev Film. I'm not sure who that is. And here we go. Working well. There we go. So
World Wide Web.
Worldwide. And we just found out before we went on that Gabriel and I have the exact same audio interface, the United Audio Twin X. Now I have a fortune in plugins, Gabe. What about you?
You know, one of the great things about having a startup is an audio startup is you get all these plugins for free. So we have all of Universal Audio's plugins because we have to test them. It is a big benefit. Wow, that is a humongous benefit because I wait for the sales, like they have one June and they have one at Thanksgiving. Mm-hmm. And I get all the, tube emulation, tape emulation. I love all that stuff. So. Their plugins are so great. You can hear, for me at least, with the UA stuff, you can really hear the air. You know, you hear with a lot of plugins, it's like there's a little bit of a filter, a little bit of a muffle over them.
Right.
The UA stuff is just great.
It's top notch. I have the whole Waves plugin package. I forget what package it is, but it was an expensive package.
Platinum or diamond. It's something
above that.
valuable.
Above that, it was above platinum and diamond. I think it started with one of those, and I got whatever one it is. I stopped buying them. I just buy Universal Audio now. I still use them when I do post. Podcasts and stuff. I still use them. They have some great plugins. So let me see. We got a hi from Puerto Rico. We got a hi from Winthrop, Massachusetts, and Comox on the West Coast, Canada. And then we have our friend Jeff Arbaya. We're looking forward to Audio Design Desk. Looks awesome, absolutely. So you have a 30-day trial, 2-week trial?
Yeah, there's a 30-day free trial. Comes with just over 3,000 sounds in the trial, and of course the software comes with 55,000, 60,000 now. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's one thing I want to talk about because every time I look at it, the number goes up and up and up and up and up and up. So I know we talked at NAB. I talked to you at NAB, and I've talked to you other times as well. So you have somebody who does original Foley effects for you?
Yeah, we have a great group that's been with us for quite a long time. It's about 5 people that make music, make sound design, and make sound effects and Foley. Yes.
So it seems to me like a Foley artist is different than somebody who maybe does the music. Is that right? Or are they the same people?
Sometimes they collaborate, but for the most part, we have like a person who's focused on sound effects, which is everything from an explosion to a footstep to a, cloth rustling. And then sound designers, often the sound design, which are hits, rises, booms, transitions, musical type elements. Often it is the musicians that contribute to that as well.
And hopefully you don't pay them by the effect. Because 50,000, that's
That's true. Our one of our co-founders, a guy named Sam Music, has a company called Elephant Sound Design. They did a sound for Rogue One and World War Z and Spider-Man, huge trailers for huge movies. And when I came up with this idea originally, he was working out of my studio, so he was right there. He said, "I have 10,000 sounds I was about to put out. I could contribute them to this idea." And the combination of the idea and those sounds is really how it all started. So we also have a lot of sounds from this terrific guy named Sam Music, who's very experienced.
So that's how it started. Mm-hmm. You said you had an idea. This guy at the same time said, "I got all these sounds. I want to do something with them."
Yeah, I was sitting cutting a trailer for one of my movies. I came from music and then became a filmmaker. And, when you're in the indie world, you contribute everything you can to every project. And I knew sound because I had made a bunch of records and things. And I'm trying to find a rise that's leading up to that, title at the end of the trailer. And the process of going out, it was too long to double click on each sound inside of the inside of Pro Tools. So I was out on the desktop hitting the space bar and the down arrow. You're guessing, you're pulling it in, you're trimming it up, you're dragging it to the right spot. You're listening, it's not the right one. And so I just had this moment of like, why is it like this? This happens all the time.
Well, thank God.
Yeah. And I realized, it's because this is built on a technology that's 100 years old. This is a tape machine. Pro Tools is I love Pro Tools.
Yes.
But it's not built for this. It's being repurposed to create sound for visuals. And so, so that was the night and early morning of an idea. And the next day, Sam came in and I had drawn a schematic up on the whiteboard. And he said, "What is that?" I said, "That's how I'm going to solve audio for video." And he said, "I have all these sounds." So that got us started.
So I know you work in Final Cut. Do you also work in the other NLEs as well?
We do. We don't yet have the workflow extensions for, Premiere and Resolve.
Okay.
Those are coming, late July or early August.
Okay.
But we do have a lot of different ways that we work with those programs, of course. Like, for example, if you were to export a video that has markers in it, our system can turn those markers into audio. We're fully integrated with Frame.io, so anything that you do on Frame, round trips inside, outside of Audio Design Desk. But the workflow extensions are coming.
Excellent. So what about Avid?
We're less focused on Avid. We're very focused on Pro Tools, so we do integrate into Pro Tools. But we're less focused on Avid at this moment for a variety of reasons, including just the code base it's built around a totally different thing. Yeah.
And also, since Avid owns Pro Tools, and most films all go to Pro Tools, right? When they're for sound design and final mixing and everything.
Every one of mine has for the final mix. Often Nuendo gets used a lot for the creation of the sounds, but it does seem that, at least in my experience, I made about a little over 20 feature films. Pro Tools was where you mixed.
It seems like everybody, anytime I have somebody that's done a film of any stature, it's always Pro Tools. It's always Pro Tools.
Yeah.
I hear people, talk about how they like the audio mixing and tools in Final Cut. And I'm like, really? Because for basic video, it's fine. But I'm a Logic guy, and I go to Logic for anything of this, substance. And all the filmmakers that I know of, that I've had on the show over the years, everything goes to Pro Tools. Mm-hmm. So It seems like that's the go-to.
I mean, their mixing capabilities, their exporting capabilities. And I love Logic too. Personally, I use Logic more as a music creation tool, music mixing tool.
Yes.
But for film, Pro Tools really, especially when it comes to mixing, it's really just built for it.
Right. That's what it seems like. That's exactly what it seems like. And yeah, Logic, even Apple, it's music making. I distort it, twist it a little bit, and do podcast editing and but mostly it's music creation. But the thing people don't realize is Final Cut and other NLEs are not digital audio workstations. People think, oh, I can mix, and you can, but it's not the same. There's tools in Logic that I absolutely need and depend on, for doing, especially working with longer form audio. But I stay in Final Cut for a lot of films, short films, documentaries and stuff. But it's doesn't have the tools that I need.
Well, you also, especially as you're in that testing phase, right? I mean, at least, I don't know about you, but for us, testing was such an important part. For one thing, you have a deadline, and I need a deadline to get anything done. So
absolutely.
We say, oh, there's, we're gonna have a test in 2 weeks. Well, you only have 2 weeks to cut the film, so you better get it done.
Absolutely. I know exactly what you mean. I don't know what it means as far as developer, but as far as just testing things. So one of the things...
So you don't have time to go out to Pro Tools, when you're testing, so you kind of got to mix in the box. And that's one place where, Audio Design Desk can be useful too. But I can empathize. I mean, we did that so many times where we were trying to dial in a mix for a test because you just don't have time to go do the round trip with Pro Tools.
Right. And then you got to use what is that conversion tool?
OMF or AAF, OMF?
Something to X, whatever, to go from Final Cut to Pro Tools because it uses, some people say it's
instead
old technology.
Instead of XML, right, yes. Yeah.
So that's another tool, X2 Pro, it's called. It's an app that goes from Final Cut Pro, and they don't even call it X anymore, and then to Pro Tools. That's what it is. I have that. I've had used it in the past. So why don't you tell us, and we have some videos to watch as well, but tell us some basic things about Audio Design Desk for people that are coming from Final Cut Pro. So it does sound design, right? It does Foley effects. It does music as well. You can do music as well with loops and things. And
yeah, you can create music. We have these really easy to use music construction kits where you literally could get tens of thousands of different musical options. But we also have a ton of music cues, so that process of finding the right cue in our system is much easier than it is in other systems. And there are a series of reasons. We've sort of broken it into 3 categories. I think you're going to show a video a little later where I explain this, but by breaking out the process of sound effects and saying that's different than sound design, you can really simplify these processes. Right now, it's so complicated. And as a video editor, most video editors that I know, they don't want to do sound. And you have to kind of do it last because you're dragging it along. And so there's never enough time. And yet, every study that's ever been done, sound versus visuals, you show an audience, same movie, the visuals go out, but the sound stays on. The audience will sit there for 6 minutes before they leave. The sound goes out, the visual stays, the audience starts leaving in 30 seconds. So that gives you a sense of how important sound is. And yet it's the thing that's left till last. It's the thing video editors don't want to do. And it's so important. So our system really simplifies the way that you can produce sound, whether it's sound effects, sound design, Foley, finding the right music cue. All of those processes are dramatically simplified using our system. Tell
me about this music kits that you were talking about. What are they?
So we've built several kits, and we're building a lot more that are kind of, in a genre. So for example, I really liked the score to Loki. I don't know if you watched that show, but I thought it was such a good example of, variance is a big part of the show, but musically there's lots of mirroring of that idea. So it's a variation on a theme. It's that one theme, but done in a lot of different ways. And what our system's able to do is quickly mix and match different melodies with different bass lines, with different chord progressions, with different percussive elements, drums, to create all of these different options within a theme. And in the case of that pack is called the Marvelous Pack. I think there's 6 themes or so where you can kind of mix and match, but you get all of these different options just by hitting replace. Give me a drum beat. Oh, give me a different one. Give me a different one. Okay, cool. Let me get a bass line. Give me a different one. Oh, make it more intense. Great, there it is. Now let's start stacking things. So you don't have to have a music degree. The system knows I'm going to stretch these. I'm going to time, pitch shift them so that they all work together, and you just get to be creative.
That's like magic. I mean, especially for non-musicians, like you said. Now, you're a musician, obviously, with all those guitars in the background, and I have my 69 Strat, my baby here, that I've written all my songs on. Oh, wow. But for non-musicians, that's like magic. For that's to be able.
That's the hope.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. So let's play a video. Which one do we want to do first, do you think? So I have...
Well, maybe we could start with what we just released. So last week at NAMM, we released something in public beta called the Media Bridge.
Okay.
And we made a special video just for you, just to kind of quickly highlight it. You might recognize the voice narrating it.
Let's do the Media Bridge.
You might know how easy it is to create audio for a video using Audio Design Desk. Well, we're launching the Media Bridge, which supercharges virtually every stock media site, so now you can access millions of free sounds through freesound.org or Free Music Archive. And if you belong to Epidemic or Artlist or Envato, you can use all of their sounds right inside of ADD. We will download and tag and organize your media for you, and it's not just sound. You can download video and drag it right into your video editing timeline. The Media Bridge is available inside of ADD now, so download it and try it to see how easily you can take your work to the next level.
Now, when you guys do these demos, you know exactly what you're doing, and you go very quickly. But like, there was so much information in that video that you made. I mean, so many different things. First off, you were talking about the free sites, the ones that have free sounds and free videos. Mm-hmm. So if you select something like that, I'm going to presume that Audio Design Desk actually downloads it locally.
It does.
So it's saved.
And
it's cataloged.
And it's cataloged, and we'll add the metadata for you. We don't always get it right. A pop-up comes up that
sure.
Where you can change the metadata. But the idea is we're trying to remove clicks, fewer clicks, keep you in your creative flow. Let me describe, I wonder if this has happened to you. So I'm editing. By the way, it's so hard for me to get into the edit. Like, I always feel like I'm looking at a bin and there's tons of footage, and I'm super intimidated. Yeah. And like, I just want to take a nap. But then I overcome my fear. Right. Yeah. I overcome my fear. I sit there and I start to break things down, and I'm reminded, oh, I know how to edit. I love editing. And so now I'm in my flow. I'm starting to, it's taking shape, right? It always feels like kind of like sculpting. Now it's taking shape. Now I need to pull some sound in to kind of give it some, to realize the vision of this. And at that moment in the current process, my creative flow is totally broken. I leave my video editor, I go and I open up Chrome, I log into one of the 5 or 7 sites that I belong to. I'm searching, I'm filtering, I'm guessing which sounds are going to work because I'm not watching it with my video. I download it, I got to go to my downloads folder. Maybe I organize that file, maybe I don't. Usually I don't, but I think some people do. Then you drag those into a bin, you get them out of the bin onto your timeline, you're moving them to the right spot. Now you're listening for the first time, and it might not be the right sound. So that's a lot of broken creative process. What we're trying to do is keep it all inside of your flow. So if, Audio Design Desk, especially if you're a Final Cut Pro user, it works right inside of Final Cut Pro, right in conjunction with it. And so for you to go and search those sites and download those things and have them all be organized and cataloged, just like you said, there's a big advantage to that. in anything like it says in there, it can also be visuals. So if you want to download, some stock media and drag it right from Audio Design Desk into your Final Cut Pro timeline, that works too. But the idea of keeping everything organized, keeping it simple, removing clicks, keeping you in your creative process, that's what the idea of the Media Bridge. And again, it's in public beta. We haven't fully realized the promise of the premise, as we say, but the feedback we've been getting has been terrific.
Absolutely. So when third-party apps add something to Final Cut Pro, a lot of times I say, I wish Final Cut Pro had that natively, right? Your app is a complete exception to that because, first off, your app is very, very, very sophisticated. And the last thing I want the Final Cut Pro team to be doing is to be adding code inside Final Cut, your code, because it's like the way it is now is really, really good. You guys have really designed it well. You have all these extra things in there that sound designers need and people that do scores for film need. And I wouldn't want your app inside of Final Cut Pro. I like it as a standalone app. So if Apple, when Tim Cook calls you up and wants to buy it, say no. Say no. You can rent it from us.
I think I'm going to say how much.
Well, that's true.
Then I'll say no.
No. Well, if he keeps it a separate app, yeah. No, exactly.
Right. Yeah.
If he keeps it as a separate app, that works fine. I don't want him to incorporate it into Final Cut is my point. Other third-party apps, little thing people do, I say, well, Final Cut can have that, should have that. Final Cut should have it. But in this case, no, absolutely not. Not that, Tim calls me once in a while on that phone, but
from his rotary phone?
Yes. We talked about having a red phone, but we said, no, this one works fine. So
it works great.
Yeah, it works great. So Nathan McAvoy says, loving ADD. I've been making a list of bugs, suggestions as I've been using it. Do you have a process of sharing this feedback? I'm
yes,
sure you do.
We do. Sure in the help menu, there's a section where you can contact us or report bugs. But what would be even better is for you to join our public Slack channel. In our weekly emails, we're constantly promoting that channel. We have a couple hundred users on there now, but we're on there all day. So it's a way of immediately getting in touch with us and also having a community that can support whatever the issues are.
Absolutely.
About 80% of the time, the answer to something is, oh, it works this way in our system. And then sometimes we go, oh, gosh, that's such a great idea. Let's tweak it so that it works like it does in Pro Tools or in Logic or Studio One or whatever people are using. But then there, of course, are bugs and are things that we're developing and working on.
Yeah. Without bugs, what would we complain about? The internet's full of complainers. So without bugs, they had nothing for them to do. So you have 2 different bridges, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
There are 3 bridges now.
3 bridges now. Okay.
We're building bridges.
So I understand the Media Bridge, which is for, like you said, downloading effects, and if you subscribe to one of their services, you can download them. So the other is the DAW Bridge, which is Digital Audio Workstation Bridge. And what's the third one then?
Is the Audio Bridge to Final Cut Pro.
Oh, it's specifically to Final Cut.
Right.
I see. So one of the things when I first was in contact with you and we did a demo of hooking up Logic and Final Cut, syncing up the timelines. And I said, well, what exactly is going to happen? Because Logic has a scrolling timeline and Final Cut Pro does not. Do you remember that?
I do.
So we put them, he said, well, let's find out. So we put them together, and what happens is Logic scrolls and keeps the playhead in the center, and it makes Final Cut Pro semi-page. Mm-hmm. The playhead keeps going back to the center and scrolling to the end and keep going back to the center. So it's like a half-paging process, which is really interesting that does that when you hook those 2 together.
Yeah, one of the interesting things as we've been learning more and more about Final Cut's system that allows for this extension is it's not actually playing Final Cut Pro. It is scrolling in real time. Right. And as a result, you can't hear the audio from Final Cut Pro. So if you want to bring the audio into Audio Design Desk to hear all of your audio together, that's a simple, drag and drop process. But it also makes it so that it semi-pages, like you said, because it's scrolling, not playing.
Oh, I see. I didn't realize that. I didn't realize it wasn't playing. It was just scrolling. I didn't know what it was going to do because I use I do hour-and-a-half podcasts sometimes, and I need a scrolling timeline, a period. I don't want the Playhead scrolling off the screen, which makes no sense. I don't know why. After all these years, it just scrolls off the edge of the screen, and it's not there until you stop it. Then it jumps back to the center, and they just added that in the last couple of years. Before that, it would scroll up the screen and stay there. So where's my Playhead? So it's mostly for long form stuff, long form audio. If it's just something a couple minutes long, it doesn't make any difference to me. But long form audio, I absolutely got to have a scrolling timeline. So we got some more comments here. Planning on buying ADD, but will DAW Bridge ever support project data support between Logic and Final Cut Pro, not just Playhead syncing, similar to ADD's export support? I'm not sure exactly what he's saying. I guess you do.
I do. Yes, that's actually something that we're working on now. I don't want to give an exact timeline. There's some various complexities when it comes to the different formats and making sure that they all work with one another. They're all kind of called Final XML, FCP XML, and yet they're all different. So the way that Logic, for example, deals with FCP XML is different than how Final Cut deals with it. So that is something that we plan on supporting, and we plan on supporting a wide range of those things. So essentially, like you were talking about X to FCP, I don't want to take jobs away from that company. I want everybody to have jobs, but our system will be a drag and drop system where you can port from a DAW into Final Cut or from Final Cut into virtually any DAW, and it will sync them as well.
So you mean to tell me you're going to do Final Cut to Pro Tools? Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, and we do that now in Audio Design Desk. If you drag you just have to go through an intermediary right now. But what you're asking about is for DAW Bridge. Yes, you'll drag your Final Cut session into the DAW Bridge. The DAW Bridge will give you a list of, hey, do you want to go to Pro Tools or do you want to go to Resolve or where do you want to go? And if you say Pro Tools, it'll open up Pro Tools and it'll wrap it all as an AAF and create that session for you and link the programs.
So that'll be fantastic because now people either go to Resolve and spit out an XML for Pro Tools, or they go to X to Pro. But X to Pro is, I've had it for a long time. It's been around for a long time, so they've made enough money.
I'd argue that, well, okay, great. So please give us the work. I'd argue that the current system in Audio Design Desk is easier than it is to go to Resolve. And then because our system builds the whole Pro Tools session for you, it'll open up Pro Tools. And of course, it's integrated right into Final Cut. So there's fewer clicks, there's fewer things to do to get from Final Cut to Pro Tools.
I see. So let's play another video then. The second video is, let me see which one that is. That is the one called...
This is the DAW Bridge video.
DAW Bridge, there we go. Let's watch this one.
This is the DAW Bridge extension for Final Cut Pro. It connects Final Cut Pro to DAWs like Logic and Pro Tools. Download and open the extension. In Logic, navigate to Project Settings, Synchronization, and make sure that your start time and frame rates are the same in Logic as they are in Final Cut Pro. The DAW Bridge can identify your frame rates if you drag your project into the extension. Then you can manually set the frame rate in Logic. In the MIDI window, select DAW Bridge In from the Destination dropdown and check MTC. Once you do that, the transport in Logic will control Final Cut Pro, and you can see their timelines are perfectly in sync. You can also control both applications from the transport in the extension. The timeline scrubber in Final Cut Pro works to bring the Logic timeline to a specific frame, and then you can jump to Logic or the extension to play Final Cut Pro and Logic in sync. The Pro Tools setup is a bit different. Navigate to Peripherals and make sure your MTC generator is DAW Bridge In. Be sure to turn on synchronization to see the MTC button and turn it on. Then, in the session setup window, make sure your frame rate and session start time are the same as your Final Cut Pro project. Once that's done, Pro Tools will drive Final Cut Pro. It will not scrub the way Logic does, but the integration is extremely tight. Download it now from the Apple App Store and let us know what you think.
That is phenomenal. Let me tell you something. That is absolutely phenomenal. So the DAW bridge is available as a separate app.
It's a separate app. It's available on the App Store, the Mac App Store, not on our website. And it's our first experience putting anything on the App Store, so that's interesting.
Well, it's interesting in a couple different ways, but having access to the millions and millions of Apple users is certainly a benefit, right?
Yes. Yeah.
They have billions of devices. Apple does billions with a B of Macs and phones and iPads and et cetera. And somebody will invariably ask you, when you're going to bring it to the iPad. Now, I know that's not going to be happening anytime soon because I'm sure it's hard enough just keeping it with the Mac, right? With the Mac OS and stuff and hardware?
Well, it's all been built. It's largely been built in Swift and Xcode. So every time there's an update, we're sort of right there. So that hasn't actually, the day that Silicone came out, we were Silicone native.
Okay.
Other than the AAF process, which goes to Pro Tools, which we sequestered. So the application was immediately Silicone native, but that one process was kept separate. So that hasn't been that hard, but the roadmap has always been since the beginning of time to build a mobile device as well, which is why we built this in Swift. And there's some really interesting things happening, I think. Now, I don't have any behind the scenes information.
Sure.
But it does seem like what WWDC, what they're showing is more and more laptop-like stuff happening on the iPad. And of course, they've switched the M1 chip. And so, the rumor is that they're working towards Mac OS on an iPad, which of course would instantly work with our system where you're, triggering sounds and tapping on things to create the sounds. That said, we are working towards a number of mobile things as well.
Okay. It just seems like there's more horsepower in a Mac than there is an iPad.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things. Storage, like people are talking about sometimes Final Cut Pro coming to the iPad, probably eventually, but I always ask them, how am I going to hook up my 56 terabyte RAID 5? How am I going to port my thousands of third-party plugins over to the iPad? Mm-hmm. Those are two big questions that have no answer at this point.
Would the RAID not work through USB-C?
It's Thunderbolt 4.
Which I don't know if it's USB-C or Thunderbolt that's on the iPad, but the plugins is a real issue.
Yeah, the plugins are, but no, it's iPads are not Thunderbolt. They're USB-C, which is I think USB 3 point something, which is a lot better than this Lightning port on this $1,500 iPhone. It's just like USB 2 speeds.
Let me just get this straight. So Thunder is better than Lightning, which essentially is saying sound is more powerful than image.
Yeah. Well, to me it is. I mean, sound first, everything else second, right? I mean, to me, absolutely. No, just that the iPad has a USB-C port, but that's only the physical connection. The protocol, I don't think is Thunderbolt. I think it's USB 3 point something, which is slower than Thunderbolt. So my RAID is specifically a Thunderbolt. I think it's Thunderbolt 4. 3 or 4, either one. So it would not connect. I mean, and then the plugins, thousands. I literally have over 1,000 plugins. How are you going to...
I mean, it will be interesting to see if they end up doing this Mac OS to iOS system. I mean, it makes sense, system on a chip, sort of the direction that they seem to be headed. And there are a bunch of applications where I would love to be able to touch it, right? I mean, it would be, I don't know what it would be like to fully edit. Of course, Lumafusion, who well, does it great.
Yes.
And actually, we've been testing a lot with, is it I forget what it's called, Rush, with Adobe Rush, which is getting better and better, and quite intuitive, and I guess is the same code base as Premiere.
Okay.
Or that's what the Adobe guys were telling me at NAB.
So first off, since you mentioned Lumafusion, they're going to be on the show tomorrow. They'll be
Amazing.
On Final Cut for the fifth or sixth time. They love having Terry and Chris on the show. Now let's talk a little bit about NAB. Then we'll get back into ADD. What did you think about NAB?
We had a great time. We started the year at CES and we won some things there, and the Apple guys had reached out to us, so we spoke to them in February for the first time, and they actually suggested that we'd be able to build this workflow extension, which we did, and that's what we launched at NAB, and we sort of magically won product of the year and best of show with this system. So that was fun. I celebrated for about 5 minutes, and then it was time to get back to work.
Sure.
But I thought NAB was, a lot of interesting new products there. We were right next to Frame.io, so seeing all the stuff that's happening with camera to cloud is really interesting. And I'm sort of a camera, geek anyway, so it's the right place for me.
So since you mentioned getting all the awards at CES, I've got some personal comments to relay to you. Can you leave some awards for some of the other developers, please? Because you also won at NAB, right?
We did, yeah, at CES and at NAB, and I'll put that in the suggestion box. Thank you.
And what about NAMM? Did you clean up there too?
NAMM, it's interesting. Nothing won Best of Show in our entire room. We were in the software room. Okay. And I actually, they do those surveys right after. And as I got my survey, I was like, pay attention to software. The idea that, and again, it's National Association of Musicians Merchants. So I think what the merchants are feeling like is you guys are all selling on your websites. You're not selling through our stores. But of course, we're starting to sell through stores, and maybe you should pay attention to software.
Yeah, that's interesting distinction. I didn't realize. I wasn't paying attention to that.
But we did have huge crowds. It was really fun. We magically got this terrific spot between Dolby and Sony, and our system makes quite a bit of noise, and there's blood splattering, and there's music being made, and so there's lots of turning heads. And at certain points, we had easily 100 people kind of surrounding the booth. Somebody got an overhead shot where you can see there's virtually no one at Dolby or Sony, and everybody's surrounding us. So that was exciting to get that kind of feedback.
Absolutely. So we got a comment. Hi, Gabriel. The last video is for Pro Tools. I can't find a video tutorial that steps through from opening Final Cut Pro to opening ADD to copying the tracks into Final Cut Pro. I think it's the other way around, Final Cut Pro into Logic, right?
I hopefully you could. I just want to understand
Let me put
the
it up
question
there again.
Right. So yeah, so I can't find a video tutorial that steps through from opening Final Cut Pro to opening in ADD to copying into Final Cut Pro. But I think she means into Pro Tools. I think the last step of it would be Pro Tools. Okay. So we're probably a week away from updating our system so that when you drag your project into our extension, all of your audio that's in Final Cut Pro will open in Audio Design Desk, which is part of what I think she's looking to do. Right now, you have to do it through the right-click share menu.
Okay.
On the project, it'll say share, Frame.io or whatever. Audio Design Desk will come up, and you can send to Audio Design Desk that way. The issue is, and this is something that we're trying to resolve with the share situation, is it's rendering, so it takes time. When you do it through the extension, which again I think is a week away, maybe, it happens instantly. So even we're working with somebody who's doing a feature film, you could bring in 200 tracks, and it takes 3 seconds. It just feels like magic. You can't believe it.
Wow.
The second step that she's asking about is what we call export and open in. So if you push, I think it's Command-Shift-E. Actually, let me just make 100% sure.
Sure.
Give me 2 seconds here. Make a new session. Yeah, so Command Shift E will create will pull up a window that gives you a bunch of icons of Resolve and Pro Tools and Media Composer and Logic. And if you click on that Pro Tools icon and say OK, it will export it and open it in Pro Tools.
Excellent. So I think we should give Roz a copy of ADD. What do you think?
I think she deserves one.
Yeah, that was a good question. Plus, she's on here all the time. So, Roz, send me your email, and we'll give you a copy. Not we, Gabriel. We'll give you a copy of Audio Design Desk. That's how easy it is to win. Just say something interesting in the comments, and we'll go from there.
See something, say something.
Absolutely. So I'm not sure what this means. Jeff says, I know it's in beta, but can you use ADD on a project now?
Audio Design Desk is not in beta. Audio Design Desk is the part that's in beta is the media bridge.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. So that piece is in beta. No, absolutely. Audio Design Desk is being used on all sorts of things. We're used on the new Transformers for Netflix and, on lots of networks and sort of real things, as well as, lots of independent projects.
So we had a comment, because I was going to ask you this myself. What are Gabriel's feature requests for Final Cut Pro? Now, this is two different categories. One is to make it easier for Audio Design Desk. And one is, do you use Final Cut for any of your films? Did you use Final Cut to edit any of your films? It doesn't make a difference.
I don't want to get in trouble.
No,
I'm somebody who probably cut a dozen features in Final Cut 7. Final Cut 5, 6, and 7.
Yes.
And when they came out with 10, we did start to do a feature in 10. And it proved at that point, remember the beginning of 10, to just be too, it wasn't ready.
No, I understand. No.
Yeah. And so we went to Premiere, and we've done all of our features since then in Premiere, except for one, which I think will be coming out next year, called San Diego Twins. That is done in Final Cut. I think that Final Cut has a really interesting approach and an interesting roadmap. I think that the magnetic timeline can feel unintuitive. It's so different, and it also can feel restrictive. Like sometimes I just want to move this thing over there, and I'm like, why aren't you letting? Like I'm dragging. It's like how I feel when I'm in Avid.
No, I understand.
So I think that the request that I would have is to make it easier to detach pieces from the magnetic timeline and move things around. Whether it's with a shift click or a option click, that would make my life easier. Now, I do like the magnetic timeline for a lot of things, and I can see why it would be useful, especially for, my daughter who's 12 years old watches YouTube videos all the time. They aren't allowed to take a breath, apparently. So every breath is edited out.
Right.
Magnetic timeline would work really well for that.
Right.
But in some cases, I just want to be able to move stuff around, and I find it to be hard. I'm sure there's a way to do it. By the way, can you train me?
Just press the letter P.
If I press the letter P, it removes that item from the timeline, from the magnetic timeline?
No, letter P, it doesn't, it turns off the magnetic timeline. The P is position tool, and you can drag any clip you want anywhere. And it'll stay when you drag it.
There you go. So I have no requests for them.
Well, the other thing is, since you work with, the team to get for your audio thing, I'm sure you can give them requests directly. But I guess, working with Final Cut Pro and Audio Design Desk is one thing. Working with Final Cut Pro as an editor for feature films is something different. So you use Premiere then mostly, which is what I've heard a lot, Premiere and Avid mostly.
For our feature stuff, yes, we use Premiere mostly. For shorter form projects, I've used Final Cut quite a lot. One other feature request I guess I would have is a screen capture. QuickTime screen capture is not very good. It is inconsistent in terms of its frame rate. Screen flow is what I use now, and we have to use this all the time. But think about how many program everything. I mean, Slack has screen capture now. Loom obviously has become a huge business. Vimeo is trying to do screen capture. It would be nice if Final Cut offered that as a thing that it did and did it well, so that you can just be creating tutorial videos or those little Loom videos, but at the next level.
So that's interesting. So you're saying a screen capture ability in Final Cut itself.
Yeah, just like they have the.
You mean for tutorials?
To do tutorials or to do little quick communication things, the way that Loom, which I think has like 100 million users or something crazy like that, does. And it also seems like it wouldn't be that hard.
Well, yeah, since it's built into QuickTime. So speaking of specifically, on my back shelf down here at the bottom, I have trays of mini DV tapes that I've been digitizing. I mean, literally hundreds of them. Now, I'm not digitizing all of them, just picking a few. I did one music event in Westminster years and years ago. It was called Blues Night at a college, and I did some great, great footage from that I'm working with now. But I don't know why, but I can capture via FireWire into my 2021 MacBook Pro, but not in Final Cut. Oh. I have to use QuickTime, and I have two tutorials up on YouTube about this. For first off, QuickTime is Final Cut will separate into 100 different clips a single mini DV tape. Every time there's any kind of a time code blip, it makes a new clip.
To do that too. It did that back
exactly.
in the day. Yeah,
exactly. QuickTime doesn't. It's
so
one
long thing.
One long clip. The other thing, when I've tested with Final Cut, the import window with these tapes, it doesn't capture the audio a lot of the times. It looks like it is, but it doesn't capture. But QuickTime does. But QuickTime does. I don't know the distinction. But
what about Resolve? Have you tried?
Haven't tried it in Resolve. Does it capture via FireWire?
No, I don't know. I'd just be curious to know. Maybe somebody on here does. I saw a question come in that asked about our licensing. Yes, it works on two computers. So if you want to use it on your desktop and your laptop, a single license will provide you with licenses for both.
So Jeff says, I think Richard might give you a lesson or two for a copy of ADD.
Apparently I could use it.
No. Well, let's give Jeff a copy of ADD for that comment. How about that?
All right, Jeff. Jeff, you're the best.
Jeff also does these great videos about veterans. He's done a couple of documentaries about veterans as well. So Jeff, you got a copy of ADD as well. That was a funny comment. I have a copy of ADD, just so you know. It's not an issue. So I'm looking for the comment. And the grav accent key will disable clip connections. That's true too. So the accent grav key, if you press that, the clip connections won't go with the clip like they normally do. Like a clip above the timeline, if you drag it, the clip connection will go. The accent grav key, if you press that, it won't. It'll stay put. And you can change the clip connection with Command Option Click. You can change it to anywhere in the clip if you want to. These are all just...
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things that's been really fun, first of all, their audio rolls, it's so great when we started digging into this in February, seeing how they did audio rolls and seeing that they'll allow us to use our audio rolls as we export to Final Cut. Just organizes, makes it so the timeline can be, quite beautiful. And then those clip connections are so handy because you want to keep editing. Well, there's all of your footsteps or your sword hits or whatever it is that your gunshots or your baby's cooing, whatever
sure.
Sort of positive sounds might be. So that's really handy. We have asked them, there's a couple of things like sub rolls are a thing, but you can't author them as a third party. You have to do it inside of the application. So that's something that we asked them if they would help us with. And then there was another thing, which is I'm trying to remember what it was. Oh, it'll come to me in a minute. But we did just report the issue with Logic, where when you export a Final Cut Pro XML from Logic, it doesn't work. Everything's just lined up at 0.
Well, here's one of the things that I discovered about Logic and Final Cut, because I go back and forth. Well, I don't use XML. I just export out of the audio files from Final Cut and finish them in Logic. Mm-hmm. The XML version that Logic uses and exports is not, it's like multiple versions behind what Final Cut Pro does, because Logic only cares about the audio. They don't maintain video information in their XMLs. I don't know why. I don't know why they wouldn't.
Right now, they also don't carry location information for the audio files. So when you read the XML, which I recommend everybody do.
Yes, everybody go home and read
when you read the XML, you'll see that all of the location it's in basic English. It's funny. You can't read these things. And you'll see that all of the audio files show up, but all of their location is at 0, which is it's almost like they just didn't finish it, or it's somewhere in the middle, And so as I was looking online, it did seem other people had run into this issue and have reported it.
Yeah, I don't know why, but that's the situation. I noticed that before as well. So here we got the question. Michael Coy says, is a licensing such that I can install on both my laptop and my desktop setup? So the answer is yes.
Yes.
I have a 2019 Mac Pro, but I switched to my 2021 MacBook Pro as my desktop now. Mm-hmm. So for the time being, anyway, I mean, that Mac Pro was incredible for a couple of years. I mean, it's just...
The i9.
Slow it. Mac Pro, 2019 Mac Pro.
Oh, got it. Yeah,
the Xeon chip, the one with the Xeon chips.
Yeah.
I was so happy when they announced that. So Apple came out and did a rare thing. They admitted they made a mistake with the 2013 Mac Pro. I never was impressed with that.
That was the trash can one, right?
The trash can. Well, but the good thing was it has a bagel warmer on the top. a bagel fits in there perfectly, and you can just warm up your bagel for butter or cream cheese.
And what editor doesn't like bagels? I mean,
absolutely. So I never cared for that one. I liked the Cube when it came out too, but I resisted buying one of those because it was under spec and stuff or whatever else was available. But the Apple came out and said, okay, we made a mistake. We worked ourselves into a thermal corner, I think they said. And then they come out with this 8 PCI Bay Mac Pro. Nobody expected 8 PCI slots. I mean, I didn't. I expected 4, but 8. Now, what are they going to do with the next version?
Well, I like that they said they're coming out with, right, but they haven't. That now they've launched the M2. Do we think that the first version of the new desktop, which will probably be a cheese grater too, will have the M2 like M2 Pro Max?
It has to. They'll
switch the order in which they put things out.
Well, the last Mac, the Apple Silicon Macs coming out, they've already said it's the Mac Pro. Mm-hmm. The time frame for that is, I'd be surprised if it's going to be 2022. And I'll tell you why. I put a post on Twitter. Every single time there was a new Mac Pro, starting from the G5. Remember them?
Oh, yeah.
The G5. Starting from the G5, I think 2009, all the way through 2019, every time there was a new Mac Pro coming out that year, it was announced at WWDC. Every single time. That was the G5, the original cheese grater. That was the 2013 Mac Pro and the 2019 Mac Pro. Every time it was pre-announced at WWDC, the year of release.
I wonder why they didn't do that.
That's what I'm saying. I think it's due in November, because that's the end of the 2-year cycle that they talked about.
Right. That's right. Yes. Right.
Mm-hmm. But they didn't show it at WWDC, so I don't know. It wouldn't surprise me if I don't know. It would pleasantly surprise me if it came out this November, because that's the timeline. But it wouldn't surprise me if it took to 2013 because they didn't announce anything at WWDC. So, but what are they doing with those PCIe slots and the Apple Silicon?
Right.
I don't want to go back to the trash can again. We've already been there. The smaller version, smaller, lighter node PCIe slots. We'll have to see. So we got a comment here. macOS Ventura has a new screen capture API that may help you with the screen capture.
Maybe they'll build it into Final Cut, because they did just do some other things that are built into the operating system, right? With the 10.6.3 release.
Well, one of the things that I like a lot is the stage manager.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, both of us are musicians, so we've dealt with stage managers in our careers. We know what that's like.
We love them.
Yeah,
they
of course.
Keep us on track.
That's right. They tell you to get going, get off the stage, you prima donna. We don't want to hear any of your nonsense.
But they also tell the next group to get off so you can get on. So
that's true. They keep things running. So Jeff, our buyer, says, thank you, Richard and Gabriel, for the ADD we gave Mr. Jeff. Does applying an audio unit or plug into a piece of audio, does the waveform redraw in ADD?
It does not. You can bounce the audio unit so that it will do that if you want. We also have the idea of clips, so you can apply things to clips that are completely non-destructive but will carry over.
Okay.
But it doesn't. Nice French pronunciation, Richard.
I'm not sure what was that? What did I pronounce in French?
I don't know either.
I'm not sure what that. I put it up there because let me go back. I'll have to, Scott, tell me what I pronounced in French. Maybe I mispronounced something that should have had a French accent.
In terms of redrawing, if you gain up and down, it will redraw so that you can see that the gain is being turned up, but it doesn't do it if you have a plugin on.
Yeah, I don't think this. Well, Final Cut does some redrawing.
Like if you put a delay on, does it redraw?
I don't know. I don't think so.
I'm not used to that. I see that OhmLab is here, who's an expert at all things audio, so maybe he knows.
He says no, but it does support all audio FX plugins. That's a different answer to a different question. So I don't think so. I don't think every plugin that you do in Final Cut adjusts. I think the volume adjustment shows up.
Mm-hmm. That's what we do too.
Yeah, but I've seen some comments about how slow the redrawing is in Final Cut recently. As a matter of fact, Wes Plate, who used to be on the Final Cut Pro team, commented on Twitter this last week that it's slow redrawing. He put up a screenshot of a blank timeline that had no waveforms in it. And I said, no, that's a feature. That's the coffee break feature, the new feature for Final Cut. You go get coffee
Well, it's interesting. We're actually in a similar conundrum because the way that your grandpa's DAW worked is it draws every single waveform and then it keeps them in a folder somewhere. Like we're all used to that in Pro Tools. It's got all of those essentially pictures of every single wave file that it's pulling from. But computers are fast now. So what Final Cut's trying to do, what we're trying to do is just do that in real time. And actually, about 2 months ago, our lead programmer, Ryan Francesconi, had a real breakthrough about how to do this. I'm not going to give away the special sauce.
No, of course not. Of course
not. What he did increased our bandwidth, I'm going to go by at least 30 times. So in version, 10.2 or something like that, if you could get 100 tracks, you can get 300 or 400 tracks now because of the new way that we're drawing things. But I think that's what Final Cut's trying to do too. They're going, why do we have to, draw these and constantly call upon those when computers are fast?
And then every time you zoom in and out, it changes, and they have to be redrawn or something. I'm not even sure. Mm-hmm. So one of the things about people, if you know Isotope, you know those guys, their plugins don't work in Final Cut as they should. And from what I understand, a friend of mine from Australia said the problem is that Final Cut is trying to play these plugins in real time without caching them. Mm-hmm. DAWs cache the plugins, Final Cut doesn't, and that's where the problem comes in. So I'm not sure if they were going to fix that or just say, no, we're not going to fix it. Who the heck knows? We'll find out as time goes on.
It is interesting because they've done some really cool, groundbreaking, no other software does it, things with audio in Final Cut Pro. And they also have lots of standard things that you're just expecting from all of your other NLEs that aren't in Final Cut. So it's somewhere in the middle. They're creating their own solutions and problems.
Absolutely. So we have a comment from Roz. Can I confirm if when you mention Pro Tools, that's Avid Pro Tools? Yes. And
Yes.
do I need that to have ADD work with Final Cut Pro? No. You don't need Pro Tools to work with Final Cut Pro. I think that's what she's asking. You do not need Pro Tools.
No, Audio Design Desk works as a plugin extension to Final Cut, and it works right inside, almost as if they're one program.
Right.
So the timeline in Audio Design Desk, and I know you have another video. I'm not sure if we have time to get to it.
Yes, we do.
Shows that they essentially work as one program. Our timeline takes over their timeline, and unfortunately, we can't see every editing event because you started to say reconform.
Right.
So we don't conform yet, but we are able to create all of that audio by controlling the Final Cut timeline.
So I think Roz was confused. We were talking about exporting from Final Cut to Pro Tools for film.
Mm-hmm.
For film. I think that's what she was confused about. You don't need Pro Tools. You don't need Avid Pro Tools to work with ADD and Final Cut. No. If you want to do work, if you can export from Final Cut to Pro Tools if you wanted to, but you don't need Pro Tools. No, I don't have Pro Tools. Not whatsoever. So all of your Foley effects, all your sound effects, all the music you create in ADD, it's all royalty free, correct?
It is.
And I had a funny thing happen to me. I'm not going to say what song it was, but I did a Bob Dylan cover, right, on one of my, CDs in the day, and it was original. We took an acoustic song and made it electric, and we, had our own. It was our own version, wrote it, and there was a guitar solo in the middle, right? That guitarist played, original, nothing to do with Bob Dylan. I got a strike on YouTube that said this was from a Bob Dylan song. It was my version of a guitar solo that, yes, I did in a Bob Dylan. It wasn't Bob Dylan. It was my version. I got a strike on YouTube for that.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. One time. It was just one time. And I'm saying, no, that's not right. This doesn't belong to Dylan. Just because I did a cover of Dylan doesn't make it Dylan. I didn't use the rest of the song. There's just the guitar solo section. So you don't have that issue.
Remember that stage of the internet where it was like, the internet was basically a place where you could, it was like a library. You could look up a single thing. You could look up there would be a picture and just text. That beginning stage, the Pam and Tommy stage of the internet. We're in that stage of the internet when it comes to royalty free. It's very early days when it comes to strikes on YouTube and how that's all working. And all of these services, whether it's Epidemic or Soundstripe or us or Envato, are getting more and more sophisticated when it comes to registering that stuff and making it easier for users, but not so easy that people can just rip us off.
No, it's true. That's true. It just with YouTube specifically, you have no real recourse if you get a strike.
That is frustrating.
We
should make a petition.
Well, we'll have to talk to Elon Musk. Maybe he can do something about it. So that's another subject. So let's play the next video. And do you want to? You can stop it. We can hear you talk when you want to because it's a longer video. So we can do a section at a time. Great. Or else I'll stop it after about a minute or so.
Yeah, you be the judge.
Okay. And this is there's one thing I want to say. There's a very handsome guy in this video.
Hi, my name's Gabriel Cowan. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Audio Design Desk. And we've been working on a digital audio workstation built from the ground up to create audio for video. And now it works inside of Final Cut Pro. So I want to show you what we're working on. I'm just going to share my screen here. So the first thing that we'll do is we'll launch our extension. From the extension, we can launch Audio Design Desk, and you'll see it takes just a moment to open. And once it does, the first thing you'll see is that the timelines are linked.
And so just to center our thoughts, Audio Design Desk has taken a number of simple approaches to how we create sound for visuals. Sound design, for example, hits, rises, transitions, drones. Our system classifies and categorizes all of those sounds so that they understand their relationships with one another, as well as their relationship to the frame that they're connected to. And there are several ways that we can easily interact with these sounds. So for example, you can see as I was editing, I put these markers. And so I can just drag this into the extension, and Audio Design Desk will ask me, do you want me to turn those markers into sound? And in this case, I do. And you can see that it came up with a first draft of our sound design. Let's listen to what it created. Great. So one of the things that's so powerful about Audio Design Desk is we're able to replace sounds with alternates while maintaining sync. So these understand these sounds are transitions. So it will maintain that connection point every time I hit replace. And so I like this. So we're just going to continue. We'll move on. Next is a scene that integrates some of our Foley tools. So in the same way that we've simplified sound design, we've also simplified Foley. So in our system, in this case, it's a sword fight. So you take whip sounds and sword sounds and footsteps, and you just drag them onto these numbers. And I'm going to be pressing the numbers on my QWERTY keyboard to show off how quickly we can create the sound for this. So we'll start here. So we're just going to go right to this moment here, and we'll chop this up, and we'll put a rise and a hit, and let's see how this ending feels. Great. That gives you a sense of how quickly and easily we can create Foley using this system. So as fun as it is...
Stop. I'm excited to get to the next part, because the next part is simpler, everyday editing, everyday problems for every edit I've ever done. These are... it's not very often as an editor that I get to do a big budget trailer or a, big fight scene. But they're meant to kind of give examples of how easy it is to, first, those editors who like to place markers, and because that you're going to go to a spotting session at some point,
sure,
which is how I used to work. Our system will just bring in those sounds for you. And so they instantly turn into sounds. And by the way, it's not just in Final Cut Pro. If you upload something to Frame.io, or if you export from Premiere or Resolve, those markers at exactly those points will turn into sounds. And the more detailed you get with your idea of the sound, the more detailed our system hopefully will be with the sounds themselves. And go ahead.
What kind of markers... How does it interpret the markers to determine whether it's a rise or
It's looking at the word. Well, first of all, you can use our key commands if you're going to ADD. So you can put H for hit, or R for rise, or D for drone. But if you type in, long rise or intense, whoosh, the system will look at those words. It'll compare them against all of the other sounds, and it will pull a sound that it deems to be appropriate.
Do you mean when you make a marker in Final Cut, you would put an H or an R?
You can do that, or you can just type in rain, or,
okay. Wow.
Or, whatever term you would normally put in a spotting session, which might be something like body fall, or, stab, or, whatever, plane crash. I don't know.
That's amazing, Gabe. That is absolutely amazing that you can interpret that marker by the text that you put in it.
The other thing that's cool is it's getting better and better. It's getting smarter and smarter. So the system, it's not going to get it right every single time.
No, of course.
It will see that it didn't get it right, because it sees you going, that's not the right thing. And so over time, there's a little machine learning element. This is local to you. It's not in the cloud yet. But it will learn from your decisions.
So Tyler says, what is a plan for ADD to Dolby Atmos? And wait a minute, this guy says, your friend says, stay tuned.
He's saying the right thing. Stay tuned.
There you go. Accent grave. Oh, maybe that was what the French pronunciation was. Accent grave.
Oh, that's right. The key. The key.
Yeah, the key. Accent grave key.
Yeah.
So that's what he was talking about. Okay, got it. Just get through a couple of these comments and we'll get back to that video then real quick. The Stage Manager looks great. I really like Stage Manager a lot. I just found a case to hold iPad to M1. Touchscreen functionality on M1 Mini. Final Cut Pro on the move. I think Final Cut will get to the iPad. I'm not sure when. Oh, there we go. No.
So other DAWs don't redraw. Right.
Yeah,
and neither does ours. It's an interesting idea, though.
Well, does Echo really help with your identification of a waveform? Volume, yes.
Right. I mean, that's the lowest hanging fruit. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing, especially video editors. This is very cool. Looks like a great job of keeping time and time code with swap audio. Does it use time code or just XML? I mean, I guess it uses time code at some point to place clips and things. That's how it places them.
Yeah, it's using time code and it's using sync markers, and it's also scrubbing the time code at 60 frames a second between Final Cut Pro and Audio Design Desk.
How about speed ramping? I'm not sure.
Jason, I'm not sure if you mean like speed ramping for an individual. So we do have time stretch and pitch shift, built in. But if you have speed ramping in a clip, it should work. It should work just fine, bringing over the audio and all of that. That's part of what we're actually working on right now.
Is that right? That's amazing.
Like I said, right now, to bring audio from Final Cut to Audio Design Desk, you have to use the share menu. But very, very soon, it's going to be just drag it in, and ADD will say, hey, do you want to bring over all the audio? And if you click yes, everything will be in Audio Design Desk, easy, quick mixing, and right there.
So Scott Gilly says even more impressive than Richard pronouncing accent grave. So Scott, I guess we'll give you the third and final copy of Audio Design Desk. How about that?
All right, Scott.
You're just trying to be funny there, but I appreciated that. So yeah, that's why I always pronounce it. It's not, it looks like it's grave, but it's not. It's grave. So hot frequency modulation. Hung up on my Toyota service dealer.
Uh-oh.
Okay, they can wait. I used when I worked at the National Archives and in Washington, D.C. for 8.5 years. I was a post supervisor down there. I would put 500 miles a week in my car, and I didn't even drive into D.C. I drove to College Park and took the subway from there. So that was like 25,000 miles a year. Now I do 2,500 miles a year.
Mm.
So I don't even need an oil change except every 2 years. So they can wait till next year. So let me just do a couple more of these comments here. Can you start with an ad project and an open bridge to get it into Final Cut Pro?
Absolutely, yes. And Audio Design Desk works standalone. So if you bring a video in there, or you can bring video into it from Vimeo, there's you can just paste a link into Audio Design Desk and it'll download video. So it absolutely works standalone. It's just that we've now got this integration with Final Cut that's super cool, so you can keep your creative flow going.
Absolutely. All right, let's get back to that video for the next section.
To sound design a trailer or to do all of the sound effects for a big fight scene, the truth is that every day editing, the real pain point comes down to a couple of things. And the first thing that we're going to explore is finding the right music cue. So the way that works now is people are going to these websites, Soundstripe and Epidemic Sound and, Envato, and you're typing in these search terms and you're listening to these things. There's a couple widgets that do this too, but you're not watching the film while you're listening to the music, and you're kind of guessing, and then you're downloading and it's on your hard drive and you got to find it, and then you got to pull it in and you got to place it, and then you're listening to it for the first time. It might not be right. You got to do it all over again. In our system, all you have to do is press the letter Z and it'll bring in a piece of music. And I'll show you how we can refine this as well. You just hit Command R to replace. maybe this feels great. This is really cool. Let's try something else. Very different feeling with this, right? Let's try something else. Let's try something else. Let's say comedy. Let's try emotional. Now, the next piece you need are transitions. You always need sounds for transitions. Well, in our system, you can just push the letter T and a transition will come in. Let's try that. Look at that. That was great. Let's replace it. We'll try something else. Right? So, I mean, it's so easy. I actually think I liked the first one the best. Great. The final thing that I'm going to show for this part of the demo is titles, because every day, all the time, every day, I need sounds for my titles, right? So right now, the process is, you're going through some library and trying to find whooshes and swooshes and hits. It's very confusing. But inside of Audio Design Desk, we can kind of say, okay, I want a transition that goes to a hit here. And then we'll say, okay, I want another transition on the way out, and we'll just replace that. And let's see how this sounds. That's kind of great. Let's select these and let's replace. Let's try that. Either one of those work for me. Let me actually take this and trim it up a little bit, and I'll put a little fade there. And what's great about this is I can just say, okay, here's my in point, and let's see what it's like to get our sounds over into Final Cut Pro. So I'm going to bounce this, and Final Cut knows where that in point is. So it's so easy to just drag this in, find that exactly right. Now we're in Final Cut, and so, I mean, it's that easy. But what's also easy and kind of incredible is that we can bring in our entire project. So let's just drag this in, and we'll hit a couple of these disclosures here. And look, I'm just going to select all, I'm going to copy, and I'm going to paste it into the beginning. And all of our sounds are organized and classified exactly as they should be from beginning to end. So let's take a listen to all of the work that we just did. So it's pretty amazing.
It is indeed. It's magic, Gabe. You guys have really, really hit a home run with this.
Thank you.
I mean, well, like you said, it's standalone, but the integration with Final Cut Pro and Logic is also absolutely stunningly impressive. It really is.
And you can link it right with, so that Logic is coming along with Audio Design Desk, with Final Cut Pro. You can bring, Pro Tools into the mix too. So everything, our system can kind of become this intermediary where everything, the hunt for music, I see Gert is saying here. Yes, it takes too much time. Just sit there watching your video, hit replace, give it some parameters. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, Ed has music beds included, yes?
Yes. Mm-hmm. That's
and
right.
You
don't have to go to a third party. We have plenty of music.
And it's ever expanding. You got to pay those guys. They got to do some work for that money. So they got to keep on expanding.
And they're working hard. They're a bunch of ninjas.
Do I know they are? Absolutely. Yeah, Jeff, you're going to find out. You got a copy, so you're going to find out how much time it can save. You can report back.
Let us know what you think, Jeff.
Added weekly. Mm-hmm. Wow, fantastic.
It is a challenge to update the website, like, because for so long it was like 30,000, 35,000, 40,000,
right.
But you got to update everything. You're saying that all over the place. Once we hit 50,000, we were like, you know what? We're not going to update until 100,000. So
there you go. There you go. Yeah. I mean, that alone, I mean, is worth the price of admission for ADD. The other thing I was thinking about as I was watching your demo video, which are really, really good. I can tell you're a filmmaker when you make these. I mean, it's really nice quality. It's almost like there's another career for people who just operate ADD.
Sure.
You know, somebody could just specialize, and I'm going to stick to ADD and integrate it with, you know, help people that work with Final Cut Pro or Premiere or
just to be a sound designer that can work faster. Absolutely.
That's what yes, absolutely. Yeah. So, have we covered everything?
I think we've covered pretty much everything. I just want to thank you for taking the time to talk to us and for being so supportive. And we are excited about what we're doing. It's been really fun the last couple of years to be leading this team of incredible people who all believe in what we're doing and to help people make better work. I mean, that's the goal, right?
So how about the scoring and Logic, writing live music to playing video? Imagine ADD handles all that to bringing it in, or just experimenting? Scoring and Logic.
Yeah, so there's a few things that you can do to use Audio Design Desk's tools to enhance that process. One of the things that you can do is, you know, link Logic to Final Cut and to Audio Design Desk and be swapping through our sounds to accent and, you know, to explore and discover new types of drum beats or percussive elements or whatever against your composition. And of course, you can go out of Logic into Audio Design Desk, be scoring in real time because there's now this linkage between Final Cut and Logic through Audio Design Desk.
So do any of those guitars in the background come with Audio Design Desk, or that's that extra?
We'll see how we do. If we keep going at the pace we're going, I'm going to get to keep my guitars.
Oh, that's
you go. My hope.
Absolutely. Don't give up those beautiful guitars. I always tell my girlfriend that if there's a fire or something, grab the guitar. Everything else can be replaced.
Right. That's
that
right.
can't
All the
be
photos
replaced.
are digitized.
Everything's the computers, whatever. That guitar comes out first thing. All right, Gabe, that's fantastic. Now we'll absolutely have you back on. Anytime you want to come on, you're more than welcome to come back on. You have an announcement, a new product, and something new, just let me know and we'll schedule you back on.
I'd love it. Thank you so much.
This has been your app is absolutely fantastic. One thing about me, which you know me from this year, is if I don't really like something, I'm not going to say anything. I don't necessarily come out and criticize. It's not what I do, but when I like something a lot, like this application, it's phenomenal.
Means a lot coming from you. Thank you.
And it also is multi-tiered. It's not just like a singular thing. It has multiple sections you can do. Like you said, standalone, Foley effects, sound design, music creation for film. And you can do it with Final Cut Pro. You can work with Logic. You can work with Premiere and Blackmagic Resolve. So, do you need Logic to make it work with Final Cut Pro?
No, you don't.
Absolutely not. Logic's only a couple $100. I like Logic myself, but I came from
the deal of the century. $200 for what?
For what?
It's just incredible. Yeah.
All the plugins and things that it has, and the sound looping and stuff, and the synthesizers. I came from a Motu Digital Performer, and then when Apple bought Logic is when I transitioned over back. I think version 7 or version 8, whenever that was. Got here late. Any plans to integrate with Lumafusion in iOS?
Well, Richard, why don't you pitch that to them tomorrow, and
I will
see if we can link it up.
I will. I talked to Lumafusion's coming on tomorrow, and I've often talked to them about, when Apple decides to buy them, and they said, we'll have to see what the offer is, the same as you did. Same as you said. But like I
might have gotten that line from them through you or something.
Okay, there you go.
I heard it somewhere. Yeah.
Fantastic, Gabe. Thank you very much for coming on, everybody. Audio Design Desk. Look, 30-day free trial. 30-day free trial. So Jason said, please put the link for Audio Design Desk in the video. I'm going to pull up the website right now. Let me see. I have it bookmarked here.
add.app is our domain name. And join our public Slack channel. There's lots of links to it. But we would love it because we're on there all day, and it's a way of kind of constantly communicating with us. If you have ideas, thoughts, want to learn new tips and tricks, want to be the first to hear about the latest things we're coming out with, really building a community of great people there.
Absolutely. Here's the website right here. So it's add.app. That's where it is. So I'll put the link in the description after this is over. Roz says, looks like pure magic. And Richard, where's your email address located in YouTube? I would guess, but thanks so much. Yeah, you can contact me through Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, and just send me your information. You can message me, and then I'll contact you from there. So there we go. Everybody, nothing but thumbs up. Lots of comments today from all around the world, as we expected. Anyway, Gabe, thank you very much. You're more than welcome to come back any